Good morning, bonjour tout le monde. Merci d'être venu à cette conférence de presse sur la sécurité en transport collectif. Je suis Marco D'Angelo et je suis président, directeur général de l'Association canadienne du transport urbain. L'ACTU est le porte-parole national du transport collectif. Nous représentons des agences de transport collectif, des organismes publics, des entreprises qui supportent le secteur et des experts en mobilité urbaine. So I'm here today to address a critical issue that's affecting transit systems across Canada. That's the safety of our riders and of our workers. The increasing incidents of violence and harassment on public transit are alarming, and swift action is needed. The Canadian Urban Transit Association formed a transit security task force to work on the recommendations that we're presenting today. CUTA worked with transit systems in Canada's most acutely affected communities in developing these recommendations. The task force had a mandate to develop recommendations for transit agencies, our partner organizations, and all levels of government. We had a common goal, and that was to improve safety measures on our transit systems and address the broader issues that impact transit. Let me be crystal clear. Violence has absolutely no place in Canada's transit systems. La violence n'a pas sa place dans les réseaux de transport collectif. Il faut agir maintenant. We take the safety and security of transit riders and workers very seriously. So our thoughts are with the families and their of violence, as well as those themselves that have been affected in this period. The time to put a stop to these violent events is now, and our goal is to make sure that transit is safe for all. So today, we challenge governments to take immediate action to ensure the safety and security for our workers as well as transit riders. So we're calling on governments to come to the table to address this issue. It's been a matter of life or death. We need them to work with us and bring with them the resources needed to tackle this issue. Le nombre croissant d'incidents de violence et harcèlement dans les réseaux de transport collectif demande des actions immédiates. L'ACTU propose aujourd'hui des solutions concrètes pour améliorer la situation dans nos transports collectifs. Nous demandons au gouvernement d'agir tout de suite pour garantir la sécurité des clients et les personnels du transport collectif. So issues such as poverty, homelessness, substance abuse, and mental health, when left unaddressed, is impacting transit systems. We know that no single solution can address the complex issue of violence on public transit. But with that in mind, people in every city across Canada have the right to get around their community without fear for their personal safety. This is why we need to bring together experts and advocates from different fields to work collaboratively to end this violence. So CUTA's task force brought forward 27 recommendations and divided those into 5 areas of focus: customer safety, staff safety, housing and shelter, substance abuse, and mental health. So let me take a minute to highlight a few of the recommendations. When it comes to customer and staff safety, we need to enhance staff visibility on transit properties for our riders and invest in safety and security and enforcement positions across Canada. We also need to ensure that regulations and bylaws are in place that give police officers or special constables the ability to curb dangerous and unlawful behavior on transit systems. We call on the Government of Canada to strengthen penalties for assault of all transit workers. This can be done by amending Section 269 of the Criminal Code to include all of those that work in transit. The current definition applies strictly to transit operators. Transit systems are often used as shelter for homeless people. We need to provide them with better options. Provincial governments should fund overnight access and intake to social service providers so that complex individuals are able to access these services 24 hours a day. We also believe that provincial government should fund an extreme cold weather shuttle service to keep folks warm in the winter and a shuttle service to cooling centers during extreme heat waves. That could also be provided. But of course, to bring people there, the facilities need to exist. Nous demandons à tous les niveaux du gouvernement de travailler ensemble pour financer des centres de réchauffement et de refroidissement pour offrir aux sans-abri un meilleur refuge que les réseaux de transport collectif. Substance abuse is also a problem on transit. We need to have the tools to prevent illicit drug use in transit stations and help to divert people to alternate, safer sites. Mental health is a growing issue as well. Individuals with complex mental health issues are taking refuge in transit properties. It shows that there's a breakdown of key social services, and this needs to change. We need better mental health services to deploy outreach workers within transit systems to assist our staff. Canada's transit agencies have worked hard to keep bus and rail services running during these difficult times, but we need the help of government to address these big issues. We need better protocols to accelerate the handoff between police officers or special constables to mental health professionals, so individuals that are apprehended with mental issues can get the care they need sooner rather than later. Safety and security are also operational concerns in every region in Canada. But in recent months, we've also seen a reduction of government operational support. In communities with underfunded transit, it's making the job harder to provide safety for riders. So these recommendations are national. They're not agency specific because every city, they have unique problems, but are common in that they require federal and provincial support. We acknowledge that not every recommendation we're bringing forward can be implemented tomorrow. Some will take time, some will need more reflection and consultation, but we need to start somewhere, and we need to start today. We call on all levels of government, transit agencies, labor representatives, and advocates to join with us in this collective effort to ensure the safety and security of our public transit systems across Canada. Travaillons ensemble pour que le transport collectif demeure un mode de transport sûr et sécuritaire pour tous. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Can you talk about how bad it is out there? I mean, when your members are going to work, are they scared?
We'd want, I've been in touch with our colleagues in labor, and we want to make sure that that they have the security they need, that they have the backup that they need. But certainly, that's something that an area for improvement to make sure that not only our staff are safe, but also riders.
But what kind of stories are you hearing from the people on the ground?
Well, I mean, they've been well documented, those incidences across the media. There've been even in the last week, there have been a number of incidences, and it needs to change. And so, I mean, it's obvious, I think, to Canadians that we've got to address this issue.
You talked about you're in Ottawa, so these are federal concerns you're talking about. Can you talk about that legislation change that you want to see made on the federal part?
I can. So I was referring to Section 269 of the Criminal Code. So right now, transit operators are listed as a factor when sentencing for assault. We want to broaden that to include all workers in transit because there's other staff as well. So we'd like to see that change to the Criminal Code. What
difference do you think that would make?
Well, we hope that would be a deterrent, that would bring forward a national debate as well in that legislation. But also, I think it sends a message that we need stiffer penalties for violence in transit, but we also need on the ground peace officers, special constables, and police officers to keep everyone safe.
Would you want to see more federal funding going towards, say, provinces, cities to provide this kind of service? Is that another demand that you're making?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the federal government can and should support transit operations. They did so during the pandemic to help us get Canada's essential workers to work every day without having to reduce service. And now people are coming back to transit. They're coming back to work, but we want to make sure that that ridership increasing is not hampered by people having fear that the transit system is not safe. And that's something that needs to be addressed, and it's an issue in every region in Canada, and that's why we're calling on the federal government to support us and come to the table to have that discussion, as well as unions representing workers, because we want to make sure that everyone has a safe workplace and that people can get around their communities without fear.
Are you going to be meeting with federal officials, with the federal minister, any federal ministers while you're here?
Well, I'm in Ottawa every day, and we have a great working relationship with folks in the federal government. And so, following up on this speech today, we'll be doing more consultations with them to examine, what their capabilities and resources are, what would the timeline be, and those sorts of things. But yeah, we do have good relationships with ministers, and we'll be talking to them.
I just wrap up, sort of coming full circle. Sure. Just talking about, how bad is it out there? What should people know about this?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that safety and security in transit needs additional funding, so that we can implement the recommendations so that we don't have illicit drug use, violence within our transit system. So that the takeaway is bringing folks to the table, labor, the transit agencies and government, to collaborate to find a solution to make our system safe. Canada's commuters deserve nothing less than that.
When did you start work on the task force?
The task force was convened during the summer of last year. So there had been some, there were some incidences over the last year, and we proactively brought together representatives from transit systems that are most acutely impacted by violence. And so that would include Toronto, for example, Winnipeg, Vancouver, STM Montreal was involved with providing recommendations, Calgary, and Edmonton. So we developed those 27 recommendations over these recent months.
Thank you very much.
There are no questions online, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Encore.